Welcome to Rick's Corner. I posted a video the other day about pro wrestling and my life in pro wrestling and how it worked and how I started and where it went, and I had such a great response from all of you. I just barely touched on bodybuilding, but I think I'll do this. Now, I've done several documentaries on my life, probably 10. I don't know if you've seen them, but it's the history of what I did and how I got into bodybuilding, and it's pretty interesting. And I've always got great comments on it because I was told that I've lived 2, maybe 3 lives in one, which is probably true. I've excelled in everything I've ever wanted to do in one lifetime, but it would take many 3 in order to do it. I wasn't trying to prove a point. I wasn't trying to get a pat on the back. I was just focused and motivated to do a lot of things, and I never thought them as something that was a job, but it was more of a challenge and more of a satisfaction of getting it done. So I'll start, I guess the place to start is in the beginning, isn't it? As a kid, I grew up in Bakersfield, which is a very small town. It's much bigger now, but it's pretty much a redneck town, an hour and 20 minutes north of Los Angeles. So, as a lot of you know, small towns and a small town mentality, it sticks with a lot of people through their whole life. And to travel an hour and a half, basically 2 hours back then, over what they call the ridge or the mountains to LA was a big deal. And to go to a big city like Los Angeles wasn't even a big deal because it was a whole different culture. It was a whole different shock to people. The hustle, the bustle, the traffic, the freeways, the fast-talking people, and they move quick, and you don't know to trust and not to trust. So people in small towns like where I came from feel safe in staying where they are. And I get that. I understand that. But there's some of us who have to step outside the box and do something that we really want to do and take the risk. And so many of you who feel like you're enclosed and you're inside of a box, it's good to step outside the box. It's good to be fearful or take adventure and challenge yourself to the unknown because you grow from that. Well, when my father was alive, he used to take my mom, my grandma, and I to Santa Monica to a place called the Kensington Hotel. It was really right on the beach. If you came down the back stairs and came down, you walked onto the sand. Coming from a desert and getting to Santa Monica Beach and coming down Wilshire and seeing the ocean in the distance was like, oh my God, there it is. I cannot wait to put my feet in that sand. Now, this was Muscle Beach. Muscle Beach to me back then didn't mean a whole lot. I didn't know anything. I didn't care. But they had a big platform where the weights were. People like Steve Reeves, Dick Dubois, and all those guys trained down there, and all the Muscle Beach regulars back from the 50s, because this was in the 50s. So I'd go down, and my sister, she was 7 years older than me. She made friends with Steve Reeves and some of these guys, and I really didn't. I didn't know much about it. All I do remember was coming down to the sand. There was a big hotel called the Monica Hotel on the left, which had an indoor swimming pool, and to the right was Honest John's hamburger stand. Honest John was a big barrel-chested guy with black hair all over his chest, a handlebar mustache, and a goatee, and he was a wrestler. But he flipped burgers. It was his own little stand that he'd rent little surf mats and bicycles to people, and this is where you get a really great homemade hamburger. But I'm very nostalgic, and the smell of the ocean, the smell of the beach, the smell of those burgers, and the people walking around talking always left an impression of my mind that say, someday I want to live in Santa Monica. This is where I want to be. I don't know what it's going to take to get here, but this is where I'm going to be, regardless of anything. High school came along. I'd take a buddy of mine, we'd go down and stay, and we'd spend the weekend at the beach. I remember it was just a getaway for me. And to go back home, it was 105 degrees and 105 at night. I said, God, I don't want to be in this town. So around the age of 12 years old, I started getting into bodybuilding and reading the magazines. And I remember Joe Weider's magazine was called Muscle Builder and Muscle Power. It wasn't what it was today. And the York Barbell Club had an advertisement for the York Barbells and a York Barbell sweatshirt, which I bought for $8, and it came to my door in the mail. And I still have that sweatshirt today. It was made out of heavy-duty cotton fabric on a sweatshirt, which you don't find today. It's not a blend. It's heavy-duty cotton. So I got that, and I got the magazines. I started reading articles about Joe Weider saying how you pack on muscle, how you do this and do that, and I got a little set of weights. And I started working out a little bit, trying to do certain things that I didn't know what I was doing. I had no equipment, no benches. But the idea of packing on muscle to me, and I've said this before, was the way he worded it was, you're going to get some hamburger meat at the store and just throw it on your biceps. You're going to pack it on. Just pack it on. And looking at the bodies, your mind back then thinks, God, I want to look like this. What am I going to do to look like this? I know you've all been through this, so this is why I'm relating to this. And I thought, I don't know what it's going to take, but I'm certainly going to try. Back in high school, it was my junior year, I started training for real, with a couple of guys that were football players whose cousin I dated. She was a year ahead of me, and she was a homecoming queen, and she was an athlete. She was gorgeous, a year older than me. And I thought, boy, did I get lucky. I always seem to get the girls no matter what. This is just a story of my life. My mom used to laugh at me. I don't know how you get all these girls to call you, but they do. Anyway, I had the best one in school. I started training with her cousins, and she looked at me one day, and she didn't really care for the muscles. She said, you look too lumpy. And I said, well, this is what the whole thing is, right? You're trying to get muscles on you. That next year, she went away to San Jose State College, and being a state college girl, and I'm still in high school, it doesn't look too good for a girl to say, oh, my boyfriend's still in high school. I get it now. Didn't get it then. I was heartbroken. We broke up. But I continued to train at the YMCA. Now, the YMCA didn't have great equipment, as I've said before. In those days, they had a barbell, like a few barbells. They got donations from different places, and dumbbells would fall apart, and a pull-down machine with old cable that had spurs in it that would cut you when you'd use it. The bench press bar had a bend in it, had a couple of squat racks. But over all that, and through all the issues of the bad equipment, I started to make good progress. I got my bench up to 300 on a stiff bent bar. I was drinking a lot of milk, eating meat. I started to gain size. I guess I was doing sit-ups. I remember my mom sitting on my feet on the rug. I got a burn on my butt from it. But my abs started to grow. The guys started to really get chiseled. And realizing that the more abs I do, the bigger they get, which is not a good idea. It makes my stomach look bigger. So I toned down on them. So I was training there at the YMCA, and then one day a friend of mine decided to drive down to Santa Monica again. We go down to the beach, and who's the first person we see walking around in a red bathing suit was Larry Scott. Larry Scott had been training about 10 years, and I looked at him and I said, man, I wished I had 10 years and I looked like that. I didn't know the secret to his success. I didn't know what he did to get like that. I didn't know anything about anything other than lifting weights. I came back and it inspired me even more. Now, I had a couple of friends working out me, but they weren't near as inspired as I was. They'd start and stop and start and stop, and I was playing in a rock band on the weekends and making about $25 for a Friday night, maybe $20 on a Saturday, and then for a prom, maybe $50. Now, in 1958, 59, yeah, it was around that year, I guess, that was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. The movies were like a quarter, a burger was 15 cents, Coke was a dime, you could eat a full meal for $1.95, so that wasn't bad. I was doing pretty well. Still working out every day, playing on Friday and Saturday nights, and when the guys were out having fun, I'd be in the gym. They'd make fun of me. Why are you in the gym every night? Why are you in the gym every night? Well, it's what I wanted to do. I had a goal. And they'd all look at me, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before from your peers, that, oh, when you get older, the muscle's just going to turn to fat. No, you'll just be fat when you're in your 20s. I said, no, it won't. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to allow it to happen. So I continued to do what I did, and I would go out. I would date, and I would do those kind of things, but I'd make sure I'd always hit the gym. And then on Friday nights when they were out running around, I'd train them, meet up with them later. To me, the bodybuilding side of it was important, but also the powerlifting side was too. So I was doing heavy squats, heavy benches, and deadlifts. Did a couple of meets, and I won a couple of meets, and I was really proud of myself because I was only about 145 pounds in high school. I wasn't a big guy. I was inspired by working out to gain some size. So this gym served its purpose, and I did what I had to do. Now, later on, I moved to another gym called Babe's Gym down the street and worked out there and cleaned up when for membership. He let me sweep up at night. In between that, or maybe, actually at that time, what happened was they had men's and women's days, and so men was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, women's Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm going to be real raw about these stories, so you're going to laugh at them. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would sweep up. I'd be the only one there at 10 o'clock at night, and the girls would shower and leave, and I'd lock up. Well, there was one girl that used to come in, and she was a pretty Hispanic girl from my high school, and she'd yell at me, Rick, I need a towel. And so I bring her a towel in the shower, and there she was. And so I hung out a little bit longer with her afterwards. And so, as you know, time moves on. But it was a lot of fun. I just still think back at these things. I had a great time. Then I moved to another gym called Joseph's Gym over on Nile Street across the town, which was like a Jack LaLanne spa, and they had a really good equipment. It was all chrome, good equipment, but I liked it, and they hired me to work as an instructor. So I was able to work out for free. Of course, they had a woman in charge of the management, and she didn't care about training. She was just filing her nails all day and talking to her boyfriend on the phone, and told me to keep busy cleaning equipment. I said, that's what I'm not here for. I'm here to train people. And they had a sheet that you would fill out for new people that would come in, and you give them 2 sets of everything, and this is what you gave everybody. And I said, you can't do this. I said, people go to the doctor, you don't give them all the same medicine, you give them things according to what they need. And the owner was a bodybuilder, Joe Barada. He was friends with Arnold Marshall, friends with Jack LaLanne. Good shape, the guy was in great shape, short guy, about 5'5". And he would call me from his Sacramento gym. He'd fly up, had his own airplane. What's the gross today? You got to get more money in there, got to get more money. I said, well, I don't know what you want me to do, set up roadblocks, because I don't know how to get more money in there. And I told him about changing the routines. He says, no, you don't want to do that. I gave him the same thing. I said, look, these people aren't happy. They want to make progress, and with me, they're making progress. I'm getting people in your gym that want to stay here. So finally he agreed, and I told your manager, she just files her nails all day, and I want that job. So I started wrestling at night. You know the story on that, but I told about my wrestling stuff. And finally I said, I'm quitting. He says, why? I said, because I can't take orders from this woman anymore. Unless you get rid of her, I'm going. So he fired her, and he wanted to hire me back on her job for an extra $25 a week. And I took it. But not for long, until I said, I'm leaving, I'm going to Los Angeles, and I'm going to live down there and wrestle. Well, while I was training in high school, while I was doing what I was doing, my diet was pretty much milk and meat, like I said, and cheese. And I remember going out to dinner with my mom and getting cheese omelets. Another was like cheese omelets, rice and beans, Mexican restaurant, come home drinking a quart of milk, full of gas and full of bloat. And I thought, oh my God. But I'm growing at this time. My father had passed away. I was living with her in an apartment building. But I discovered that Bill Pearl was taking something called Dianabol. I didn't know what it was. All I know is that it worked. So I found the family doctor, and I asked him to write me a prescription. He said, well, you don't know if you want to take that. You know anything about it? I said, I know a little bit. I want to try it. So he wrote me a prescription, and it was 100 tablets for $8, made by Ciba. Now, Ciba doesn't make it anymore, but that was the best Dianabol ever made. I took it, and within about a week and a half, I must have gained so much size, and I was so pumped all the time. It was ridiculous. I said, I don't know how this works, but it's certainly working well. So I took the bottle, and then I ran out, and for a long time I didn't take anything. Then I got another bottle, then I ran out, and I kind of cycled it like that way, but I don't know that I should have been doing it, but there was nothing against it back then. There were no laws against it, and my doctor gave it to me, and I said, okay, it must be okay. He gave it to me, and it worked. In the meantime, I entered a couple of contests in Fresno, did pretty well, and then I decided to make the move to Los Angeles, as you know, in 1969, as I talked about it in wrestling. I had to get a regular job in order to move, because I told my mom, staying in this small town and doing what I'm doing, I'm never going to get anywhere. She, what about your music and your band? I said, look, I make some money on the weekends, but what's that going to do? It's never going to go big. However, it did. We got an offer to enter the Battle of the Bands at the Hollywood Palladium, and we won out of 200 bands. This is in 1961. And from that, we got a contract with Capitol Records and played the Sunset Strip and Vegas. So it was good, and I was good at what I did, and I thought maybe this will be my career. It was, and it wasn't, and I thought, but I can't stay in Bakersfield like I said before. So I applied for a job at many companies, and Kellogg's Cereal hired me. And they brought me down to the city of Torrance and trained me to go to supermarkets and sell cereal, or at least check on the shelves for Kellogg. It sold itself, so it wasn't no big deal. They gave me a company car and $800 a month, which was pretty good money back then. And I had already been wrestling, but I quit just to do the job. I get down there and I'm working, and they made me get an apartment, which I did over in, I think it was Torrance, nice area over there by Redondo Beach. And I'm calling on markets all day, and I'm thinking I got to go find a gym. I went to the YMCA in Long Beach, but every time I'd shower, 10 guys would follow me in there in that area. So I thought I felt very conspicuous. So I found Bill Pearl's gym in Inglewood, and it was quite a ways from my house, and it was in the ghetto, and it was a pretty hardcore area to be seen if you're white, but I didn't care. I went. and there was a few guys that were white as well. So I joined and met Bill and met his brother Harold, and Harold was twice the size of Bill and been in and out of jail, a rough guy, a lot of rough guys in that gym. But I made some really good progress. He had excellent equipment, a lot of it homemade. I could just remember this tricep thing with the rope. My tricep just blew up, and my benches were good. And I trained it for a year, working for Kellogg's and spending more time in the gym than on the job. And finally I quit. I said, that's it, I don't want to do this anymore. This is what I want. I trained with Jim Morris for a while. Some pretty good guys. And some of us are still friends today. Someone said, why don't you go down to Gold's? I said, I've never heard of Gold's. No one, I don't know what that is. And so they told me where it was, and I drove down there and I walked in the back door and I looked around. There it was, sure enough, Gold's Gym. Arnold had just moved here, and Franco and Frank Zane was there, and I met them, and Arnold and I became buddies, and I started working out with him about a day or two later, doing bench presses and then something else. And you know how it is, you fall into a clique of people and you just become one of them. Now, in my wildest dreams, I never thought this was ever going to happen because I didn't plan it. It just happened. This is the way my life works. So after about a year and a half, I relocated and moved to an apartment in Santa Monica on 10th and Wilshire. If anybody know where that is, that's 10 blocks off the ocean, and Wilshire Boulevard is the very main boulevard in Santa Monica all the way up through Beverly Hills in Los Angeles. It's quite a street of very elite businesses. And I got the apartment, a one bedroom for $135 a month, furnished. Unheard of. I got rid of my company car. I had to buy a car, so I bought a Volkswagen, a 56 Volkswagen, for $400 on my credit card, which got me from point A to point B. Back in the 70s, Volkswagens were in. So I was happy. I had a little bit of money. I didn't have enough, really. So I started training at Gold's every day. I called the wrestling office locally and I said, look, I need to work at night, so they put me to work 5 nights a week. And then I worked the front desk of the gym for a short time, just a couple hours, and started training. And this is where bodybuilding really took off for me. I got in with a group of guys that you know of, with Arnold and Franco Zane and Draper and all those guys back then, and I was in the group. And it wasn't long before Joe Weider came in and Arnold introduced me to Joe, and Joe took us all to lunch. And it became a routine every Sunday going to lunch with Joe. It was a mecca, and it was a place where no one ever knew that it was going to grow into what it was today when you look back on it. But it was a bunch of guys, like we were in high school, just wanted to hang out together and just work out together and tell stories and go to dinner, go down to the marina at night, pick up chicks at the clubs, and this is what our life basically was. Work out in the morning, lay on the beach. I was Arnold and I, Jim Morris, Charlie Fallis, and a bunch of guys got a heavy Chevy commercial. It was a national spot. We got $1,000 for the day plus residuals. So at that point, I joined Screen Actors Guild, got an agent, and started getting other movies like the movie Ben, the FBI series, and other things that would come up, Michelob beer and some other commercials. And back in those days, it wasn't that difficult to get that kind of work, and then you got residuals. So I was able to rotate, which a lot of people couldn't do. It was my residual payments, and then you collect unemployment when you're not getting them, and then I'd wrestle at night, and so I had like 3 incomes, and it built from that. And I'm training every day, and I'm learning everything there is to know about bodybuilding training at Gold's, and all of a sudden someone asked me to do the Gold's Gym logo in 1973, which I did, and it became like the iconic logo that has been worldwide forever. From that, I designed some other t-shirts, Bodybuilding Stay Hard Longer, Nothing Feels as Good as a Nice Snatch, all these other t-shirt designs, and I put them in some muscle magazines that were lesser than Joe Weider's, but they were cheaper. It's $150 a month, and I started making money, having shirts printed, mailing them out, and one thing led to another. And Joe Weider says, look, why don't you put your ads in my magazine? I said, because I can't afford $800 or $1,000 a month. So he says to me, if you model my products, I'll give you a free ad every month. I'll do all the artwork and lay the page out, and you'll have a good business going. You'll make a lot of money. I agreed to do this with him, and it wasn't long before I started getting tons of orders in the mail. I was jobbing out my printing to a local company in Venice, and then I thought, well, maybe I should start printing my own shirts. So I bought some equipment, built my own equipment, and at that time I moved out here to my house, and I put it in my garage, and I started printing my own shirts, creating my own designs and mailing them out, and I was doing around $80,000 a year. I kept track of everything sold for several years. It was a really ongoing business that made a lot of money. Still training. I was training every day. I entered a couple of contests. Arnold went with me and he judged, and I didn't really like competing. I got some trophies, but I thought, what's it going to do for me? It's not going to put food on the table. So I'll use my body towards wrestling, but train like a bodybuilder. And I did. I trained with all the guys down there, including him. The training paid off. All of a sudden, I'm in the magazines all the time, along with everybody else. And my mom said to me, "Did you ever think this would happen?" I said, "Not in a million years. Never did I think this would happen." So we started getting some TV offers. And like I said, I did the movies and I did this and that. My life was the best it could possibly be. Get up in the morning, have breakfast with Arnold, go to the gym, lay in the sun, go on auditions in the afternoon, book a couple of jobs, wrestle at night, and rotate over and over and over. It got to be a lifestyle that will never be duplicated. You could go into the gym and had a certain scent, smell in the gym that smelled like bodybuilding and the ocean and the salt in the air from the sea. And you could take a run down on the beach, run underneath the pier and come back and train. People trained in their bathing suits, no shoes, barefoot. Joe Gold didn't carry, he was one of the guys. And he had built that gym in 1965 for his fellow bodybuilders, not looking to make money, just to have a roof over their head where they could train. If he started charging money, it was $40 a year. If he didn't have the money, he said, just go ahead and work out. So that carried me through quite a few years training at that gym. And the fame that I got out of it in the magazines and then getting TV work carried my life even farther. And then wrestling on TV and being a bodybuilder and being seen carried it even farther. Now, I remember on the women's situation, it was really kind of funny because I'd go up to Bakersfield to visit my mom, and of course I hit a club at night where all my buddies were in Bakersfield, and they were always happy to see me. "How do you like LA? How do you like living in the big city?" I said, "I like it. It's a nice change for me." And they'd always say, "When are you going to move back here and be like us?" I said, "I don't want to be like you. You're the reason that I left, and no offense to you, but I want something more out of life." And I remember meeting some girl in a club one night, never saw her. This was what we did back then. And she takes me back to her apartment because I'm only in town overnight. And I look around and she has me take my shirt off, and she just, "Oh my God, I've never seen a man built like you. Oh my God." And she undressed, and the rest of the night speaks for itself. But I tried to leave, and she gives me her key, and she says, "Look, can I go with you to LA?" I said, "No, I don't think so." She says, "Well, take my key." As I'm walking across her hardwood floor upstairs, she's holding onto my ankle, dragging on the ground. And so I got down in my car and I threw the key in the street, never saw her again. That was terrible. But I had my fun, trust me. And even in the marina when we were there, and I've said this before, we'd go down on Friday, Saturday nights, and the place was loaded with single women. You know, you didn't have the internet connection you have today. And so you just go and you look around, you meet somebody, and we would give them a light test. And I've said this. Light test meaning if you find someone you like, you take them out by the door where the bouncer is, and there's a light, and you hold them under the light. They look good, you keep them. If you don't, you take them back and leave them. We did this many times, and we were always joking around. There was about 6 or 7 of us that went, and being bodybuilders, the guys were intimidated, they were jealous, and the women looked at us like we were gods. It was the funniest thing in the world because this is all new to me. You know, I didn't raise in a town like that. But it was to our advantage, and I have never had so many laughs and so much fun. We'd always end up with somebody at the end of the night and take them home, and they'd end up making us breakfast with biscuits and gravy and eggs and all this shit, and we always got a meal out of it. But it was a fun time, and we laughed about it a lot. I went with Arnold on an audition to read for a movie, and he was slurring his words. He said, "Come with me, you might get a role." And I said, "Okay." And afterwards we get in the car, and he said, "What'd you think?" I said, "I would never think of you being an actor. I'd forget about it." So that says so much for what I said. But we had a great time. And time moves on, of course, and everybody kind of goes their own way. But we also stay in touch as best we can. And through the years, I kept training and training and training. I never missed. I've had some serious injuries from wrestling. I tore both quads in 2001 wrestling. Someone fell on me. Had to have those reattached. I've had numerous cortisone shots in my shoulders. I ripped my right tricep. I lost a finger. I have back injuries from wrestling. You name it, I've had it, but I've never let it stop me from going forward. I always felt that the gym was my savior, and that if I worked out and I kept a mental attitude properly, that I could always overcome everything, and I always have. I had pneumonia 4 times. I have it, the end of the tail of it right now. But I had it last July. I almost died. I lost 31 pounds in congestive heart failure from pneumonia, and I beat it. Now this past 2 weeks I got a taste of it again in my right lung, but I'm okay. It's like a walking pneumonia. I can go train a little bit. I'm a believer in moving forward and being motivated to accomplish anything I can. When I did my t-shirts out here, I learned how to print. Then I learned how to airbrush, and I came out with designs for that. Then I taught myself how to do tattooing. And I started tattooing for like 8 years in my house, or doing tattoos and making a living at it as a sideline. I taught guitar through college. I was a good guitar teacher. I still play guitar a lot, and some of my songs are on YouTube. I have probably 6 guitars. I have 3 kids. My oldest son's 38. He's a musician. He's also a songwriter. My 35-year-old Shane also produces music for television and radio. Got an ASCAP Music Award last year. My daughter's 25. She's a professional photographer and shoots for all the major magazines, including Billboard. Very, very successful. So maybe I did something right in motivating them to go forward and not looking back. And I think that's a big plus in life when you have that relationship with your kids, and every day you can text them or call them and tell you how much you love them. That's really important. I'm 72 now. I've had my share of everything. I hope to be around a long time, but if I'm not, this video will last a long time and people will know about it. And I embrace everybody that I meet as a friend, because I look into people and I see things that maybe other people don't, and I always look on the good side. There's a lot of good in people out there, even the bad ones, and you just got to bring it out and treat them like human beings. Many people ask me about training and how you train and how you eat and what you do. They ask me about steroids, what I've taken, what I haven't. I've taken a lot of different things, never in abundance, just enough to keep the edge and keep my body in shape where I want. It's not about competition. It's not about me being the biggest and the best. It's about me competing with myself and being the best me for me at this time. I'm in the best shape for the shape that I'm in, and that's what matters. When you get a certain age, your testosterone drops, and I'm a firm believer that you have to replace it, because without that you start to slump and your muscles don't look good and you have no energy and your attitude changes. So testosterone therapy from these clinics nowadays is probably a really good deal if you're over 45. The growth hormone never did much for me. I never got much out of it at all. But I think just basic hormones do help. And I know that when I go around, people never guess my age. They're not even close, within 20 years. So it's probably done something good for me. My diet is clean, pretty much. High protein, low carb, as it was back in those days. I have a hard time deviating from the meat, eggs, and cottage cheese. Although I had spumoni ice cream last night and felt really guilty after that. I still train today a little bit, even with this little pneumonia I had when I did some back and some abs and some bike. I just feel so much better mentally and physically when I go to the gym. And I know a lot of you sometimes say, oh, I took a month off, I took 3 months off. I've done it. I did it when I was in the Army, and I didn't like it because I wanted to be able to work out. But my bodybuilding led me to today. Now, if I hadn't done bodybuilding, who knows where I would have been. I think that opened the doors for a lot of things. It's definitely a conversation piece when people see me because they ask me, and then they ask about wrestling because one thing leads to another, and you make a lot of friends, and they look at you like, you're amazing, how'd you do all this? And it just goes on from there. I've written books. I have books out on the internet. I have shirts on bodybuilding.com. I get royalties on t-shirts sold. I constantly keep things moving. I have sponsors that sponsor me. Old School Labs is one of them, Gold's Gym, World Gym, because I've made a name for myself, and I've used it towards that. And I also want to use it towards helping others. I like doing motivational speaking. I like helping somebody that needs help. When I see people in the gym, big guys, little guys, whatever guys, women, I always compliment them on their progress because they need a kind word. I think it's important to encourage people, not discourage them and put them down. And you wouldn't believe the response I get from people. Thank you so much. That means so much coming from you. A little encouragement and they get even better. Supplements, I have a lot of supplements. I don't take all of them. I'm not taking protein right now. I'm just taking branched chain aminos. I'm taking some Old School Lab supplements that I really, really like because I think I need, like the vitamin E's and some of those things in the base. And their branched chain aminos are good. The pre-workout is good. And I'm just, I like this stuff. I think I need a certain amount of it. And bodybuilding will continue the rest of my life as long as I can get in there and do what I do. Now I have days, and I know you have days, where you get up and everything hurts, and trust me, if you walk in my shoes, you know how I feel. I get up and I hurt. My legs hurt, my back hurts, my shoulder hurts, my hands numb. Right now I have carpal tunnel, so I have to have surgery on that. But I get myself out, I go to the gym, and And I go in with a smile, and I never say something's wrong. I just say everything's good, and then it becomes good. You go with a smile on your face, you'll always feel well. And if you train, you'll always feel good. And once I leave the gym, I feel like I accomplished something. Even if it's not what I did 40 years ago, it's something anyway, and it's good. So those things are important. I put off a knee replacement for I don't know how many years. I had it done in January. My God, my knee is so good, it's ridiculous. I never had any pain. It's stronger than ever, and it was a smart thing to do. So here I am now. It's Saturday afternoon. I have time to sit here and chat, and I hope I answered a lot of questions. People ask me questions all the time about my training and what I do, and it's really pretty basic. There's nothing elaborate about it. I'm old school. I do what the body parts and how they work. I separate my body parts. I was doing twice a week, chest and back, shoulders and arms, legs, and then again the following 3 days. And then I kind of mixed it up where I just do one body part a day now. Like I did chest today, I did back today, chest yesterday, and tomorrow maybe I'll do arms and then legs. I don't know why. I'm just kind of filtering it out a little bit, and I've noticed that I don't really lose anything. I actually gain a little bit, and the gaining mostly comes from where I eat, not my training. I don't go real heavy. I do a medium weight. I don't do a light weight. I start with a light weight and then I go medium. Right now, the antibiotic I'm on has a side effect of ripping tendons and muscles, so I've got to be very careful. Because when I ripped my quads, I was on Cipro, and that's one of the culprits that can do that. I'll be off it in 4 days, and then I'll start to move up a little bit in weight, but I certainly don't want to rip anything now. I've been through enough this year. And that's where bodybuilding led me. I hope I answered all your questions. It opened up a lot of doors. It had not been bodybuilding, I would never got into wrestling. I probably would never got into acting. I probably maybe never would have left Bakersfield. And I still have good friends there. I treasure their friendship. I check on them all the time. They're doing what they've done ever since high school, and they're happy with their lives and what they're doing, and more power to them, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And for years I kept hearing, oh, you'll move back and you'll turn to fat. Now they don't. Now they encourage me, and they're very happy that I did what I did, and they're happy to see me when I come up there. So as you get older, life is good, and you have to realize it doesn't pay to complain, and it doesn't pay to be negative, and it doesn't pay to look down on things. Be inspired, because if you're breathing and you're above ground, you're ahead of the game. I lost my father at a young age. He wasn't able to go through my journey with me. My mom lived till 97, and she was, and I was thankful that I had her, and my kids as well. So embrace the fact that you got family around you and that you're able to do things you want to do, because there's only one chance in life, and this is it. Take advantage of it. Don't always say one day, because one day will never come. Tomorrow will come, it'll be a new day, and you'll have a new adventure, and you'll accomplish that. So that being said, I think that's about it. I hope I've answered a lot of your questions. If you have any, you can always write to me. This might be kind of long, but I felt that I wanted to get this out and share it with all of you, because you people write me the nicest comments and the nicest emails, and you reach out from all over the world, and this is so important to me, to make a difference in the world and leave a legacy that people will know, and they'll always know that I put it there for them. So thank you for watching Rick's Corner. I have more guests coming on next week, and we're going to keep going and going and going, and I'm going to get a lot of information out the best I can with good guests. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
drasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.